In this tutorial, I'm going to briefly show you how to use a pen tool. File, open. I'm going to open up the cherries, of course. And if I select my pen tool, make sure you are on the path. And what you want to do is you first click zoom in, Control plus zoom in. This will be our starting point right here. We're going to click to leave our first point. If I hold my space bar on my keyboard, I can move the image around. Now if I click here as my second one, there's a straight line. I'm not going to let go of the click. I'm still holding my click on the mouse, and I'm going to drag down to curve my line to the cherry. That is a good curve for me. I'm going to let go of my click. Now I have to break this handle right here, and I'll break it by clicking the Alt on my keyboard, and as you can see, there is a little V or upside down V. That means I'm going to break this point. When you see that, click it, and the point has been broken. Now I'm going to click again right. I'm gonna move my image with spacebar. I'm going to click here, and again I'm going to hold my click, and I'm going to drag until that curve is how I want it. There it is. I'm going to break the point again with Alt, break, click, go. There's a perfect curve. Alt click, broken, and I'm going to Control plus zoom in a little more. I'm going to curve it, perfect, Alt break. Now again, this is how we curve all these points from a straight line to the curve of the object. Drag, I'm going to do about right here, and break. Okay, click, drag, Alt breaks. And I'm going to do this throughout the curve of the cherry. There is fine. As you can see, some of the handles are larger than the others. It all depends on the curvature of the object. If I hit it over here now, because this curve is not going to give me a good one, so I'm going to curve it about right here. I'm going to Alt click, and maybe here, Alt click, breaks. I'm going to Control plus zoom into it. I'm going to do a little curve right here. Alt breaks it, and now here we go to the little stem. So you have to break it every single time? Not really, but you know, when you're starting out, I would suggest you do break it just to get in the habit of doing it, and it will give you a little more practice. Like let's say that one I didn't break it, and if I go here, you know, it's still good, the curve is still good. And that one I didn't break it, and this one I didn't break it. You see, this one, the handles in this one were larger, this one is not too big, and this one is a tiny little curve. And this one, look at the handles are not as big, but like I say, get in the habit of breaking the handles just to, and when they're about this small, you don't need to break it, just kind of click around. And I'm not going to be too exact. I left this out on purpose. When the points are this close, you don't need to break them. And now here I'm going to start curving, break. And if I mess up on this point, like right there, left a little white, I can Control Alt Z, and it will go back. And then I can redo that point again. And here we go. I'm not going to break that one. These are pretty much straight. When they're straight and you don't curve them as much, you really don't need to break them. But get in the habit of doing it just so you can get the practice and a feel of how the pen tool works. The pen tool is the one I use to make exact cuts, because I don't have any artifacts left over after I do the cut with my path, and I'm going to show you that next. As you can see, these are pretty much straight lines. I don't need to curve. Here again, we're going to start the curving, break it with Alt. Here, curve it. That's good for me. Alt breaks, and here is where I started. If I click here, you can see this little round icon on the tip of the pen, or right beside it, I would say. That means you're about to close this path. I'm going to control zoom out, control minus on my keyboard, and I'm going to click the first point where I started. It will draw a straight line. Again, I'm going to hold it until it curves. Perfect. I don't need to break it because that was the last point. If I hit control 0 on my keyboard, it will zoom out to the complete image. As you can see, this is my path that I drew with the pen tool. Now, since we were on path to begin with, I'm going to control enter. When I control enter, the path activates and it gives me a little marching ant around the object. If I hit control J, it will give me a new layer that is cut out. I'm going to turn on the eye off from the background, and you can see my cut is very, very clean and exact. Look at this. No funny artifacts or jagged edges anywhere. It's a perfect cut. Now, since this cherry had more white in between them, you have to do again the same steps. But this time you're going to do it on this one. I'm going to put this one, I'm going to call it cutout. And with the pen tool still selected, again I'm going to go inside, and I'm going to start right here. Click and curve. Oh, if I hold my space bar and I'm still holding my mouse click, I can move the path. Right there is fine. Let go of the space bar, let go of the click, and I'm going to break the handle with the Alt. These are pretty much straight lines. I don't need to curve them as much. I'm just holding a little point, curving it a little bit. I'm not breaking these because these are pretty much straight. Now here I will start the curve. Alt breaks that. Here's another curve. Click, break this. Here's another curve. Curve it. Don't let go. Don't let go. Let it go now and break it. Here's another curve. Click here and curve it. Curve it. Here it is. Alt breaks it. I don't need to break this one, and these are again pretty much straight. I don't need to break these. As long as I'm following the edge, I should be okay. I'm going to control plus, zoom in, and here is my beginning point. Click it and it closes. Now I have a path that I made. I have to activate this path so I can cut that out. I'm going to control enter. I get the marching ants on my cutout layer, and of course I'm going to hit the delete. Now to get rid of the marching ants, I'm going to on my keyboard hit the control D and go to my move tool, and as you can see, we have a perfect, beautiful cutout of the cherries. Now we can place, if we save this as a PNG, save as, we can save it as a Photoshop document, but if you want to send this to a friend or whoever, just save it as a PNG and it will retain its transparency. Let's just call this cherries cut out. Save. Large is fine. Hit OK. Now let's close that down. We don't want to save it. Let's say file, open. Let's do, here's a cutout you can see. file open. Let us put these cherries on the postcard. If we drag the cherries to the photo, you can see how perfect the cutout is. Let me resize. Look at this. Perfect cutout of the cherries. And that is how you use the pen tool. So practice on that.